Welcome to Sovereign Sisters podcast. And tonight's very special. Tammy Haynes and I are here to welcome our special guest, Kristy Garnet. Let me tell you a little bit about what tonight's all about. We're going to talk about herbs and natural remedies, which are practical tools for better body awareness, autonomy, and sovereign living that elevate your professional and personal status so you can be free to achieve what you wish in your life. Kristy, my screen just popped away. Isn't that great?
Gotta love technology.
Yes. Our guest, Kristy Garnet, is a holistic living coach and clinical herbalist. She's passionate for the natural environment and personal well-being. She's got a lifelong dedication to planetary health, and she's faced her own health issues, which brought her to this natural healing modality. And her mission is to empower high achievers to thrive using conscious awareness and herbal remedies, blending holistic and scientific approaches to achieve optimal health while enjoying life's luxuries. So let's bring in Kristy and welcome her.
Yay!
I'm having fun. Something's not working all the time.
Let me bring her in. I'll bring her in. Hi, Kristy.
Hi, Kristy. I got brought in.
Yay. So much fun with technology. We just love it. So I want to welcome you and thank you so much for joining us. We're really interested in learning more about natural healing modalities, especially using herbal remedies. But I know you have a history with how you got to where you are. If you want to share a little bit about that, that would be great.
Yeah, absolutely. Thanks for having me. Yes, my background, I think most of the time we all come to this place because of something that's happened to us, right? Mm-hmm. We don't become sovereign until we're needing to. And right. So what happened to me is I was a type A. I still am a bit of a perfectionist. And in graduate school, when I was doing my master's degree, I had a few mini strokes. And what that meant was that I was down a very scientific road, very Western minded. And I'm grateful for that because that allowed me to get a diagnosis and understand what I needed to do. But I always needed more. I needed more support. I needed more understanding. And I was that really analytical mind. And so I dove into natural remedies, specifically herbs, because that's what I really loved and gravitated to and understood. And then that took me to alternative healing and complementary medicine. And eventually I created a practice where I started working with people so that they could also change their life and their bodies using customized natural remedies and consciousness work.
Nice. Very nice. Yeah. That's awesome.
Sounds great. One of the things I guess we've been talking about all along is how using natural remedies really makes you a more sovereign person, that It really helps with, your body autonomy. How would you speak to that?
Well, I think it's important to really understand what sovereignty is. And for a lot of people, I think it kind of gets muddled, right? And if you think about it from like, what does a sovereign country look like versus something else? What does it look like to be sovereign in your body? And the first thing I always say is you have to identify the internal and the external expectations. And then from there, what aligns with you. And that's takes you to the third step. And that third step is those practical tools. So if you know that you're sovereign in yourself, and that's the whole part of you, then you know exactly what aligns with you. And then for me, there's always a herbal piece. And so that is where I would take people and what tools in that herbal toolbox. So is it flower essences or essential oils or some other aspect of a herb? Maybe it's the energetics of a herb. Where that goes is how I think you practically live in a sovereign way.
Hmm.
That's quite remarkable the way you pulled that all together, because you've got this broad expanse of knowledge of herbs in all forms. You know, you've
Right.
talked about essential oils and tinctures, and even the energetic, which we're talking about more homeopathic, which
Mhm.
Tammy speaks a lot about.
Yeah.
So when you're working with a client or on a project to determine something is the best use for a particular, I hate to say illness or ailment, but for use to help repair the body, help the body itself
Right.
already working towards repairing itself. How do
Mhm.
you start down that path?
Well, firstly, what we have to always remember, especially when we're thinking about body autonomy and sovereignty, is the answers come from the client. The answers come from the individual. And so this becomes a bit of a partnership. So I can guide, and I do guide, and I provide recommendations. But one of the things that we first and foremost look at is, what is the person wanting? What do you want? And it's as simple as, can you swallow a pill? Some people cannot swallow a pill. Or it comes down to, oh, well, I've heard that lavender helps with X, Y, and Z. And so I'm going to go that direction. Well, my first challenge as a holistic living coach is, well, who did you hear that from? And why does that matter to you? And so then we're constantly circling back to making sure that the body is supported, but we're subtly coming back to the bigger question, which is, are you being sovereign? Are you honoring your sovereignty? And so it's weaving that constantly in. So pretty soon it becomes part of the fabric of who you are. And then your body partners with you in a way. And then the healing can happen almost simultaneously, or spontaneously, rather, or inch by inch, to give you to that optimal health.
So, so explain
Mhm.
how one would become sovereign, because that's a big question. I mean, a lot of people might be listening to you like, well, I don't even know how to begin. What do you mean by being sovereign? Can you
Mhm.
explain that a little bit?
Yeah. So we go back to, what is it that you do out of expectation? So let's just say, um, I make sure that I shower every day. Maybe that's, I mean, it's so, we got to break it down, right?
Right,
We
right,
break it down to as narrow as we go. I shower
right,
every day. I
right.
guess the reason that that's coming up is because we're having some water restrictions in our city right now.
Oh,
So that's a big topic. So
yeah.
how do you remain sovereign? Well, I shower every day. Okay, that's the expectation. Well, why is that an expectation?
Mhm.
Well, because my family of origin really valued showering, because I just love showering, because I society tells me that I need to shower.
Right.
Okay, then you go to another place, right? And another person will be like, I don't shower ever. I do it when I have to. I let my hair go until it's really greasy. I don't believe in using shampoo. So both of those aspects can be sovereign if you really feel aligned in that moment.
Right.
So that's how I look at sovereignty, is when you take your expectations, whatever they are, you look at them and you say that I don't follow this. I don't follow this dogma. I don't follow this expectation, and I'm going to challenge it. And then once you challenge it, you can step into more of what you are and who you are in a
Right.
sovereign
Right.
So
Nice.
it's feeling authentically like yourself. You have to find that peace that maybe you take away all the societal norms or the
way.
family expectations, and it
Correct.
just what is actually true to you that makes it what we're calling sovereign.
Right.
Absolutely. And it's so So here's the thing about humanity. We have so many things that overlap. So you can be in a sovereign place, you can live in a sovereign way. And I like to use the word congruent, right? You can live in a congruent way. You are who you are authentically, no matter what place in society you're at. And that can overlap with other people's sovereignty, and it doesn't have to be a conflict. Like, oh,
Right.
you're showering every day and I'm showering, and then we're in this battle.
Right.
We can all be sovereign and share resources.
Sure. Yeah.
That makes perfect sense.
Yeah.
Yeah. So, what do you, or how would you suggest people start the path towards not only sovereignty, but becoming more aligned with holistic and natural remedies in that process where you're stepping away from the societal norms, stepping away from, the medical industrial complex and focusing more on self-healing and having the body do the work that it needs to do with the additional support of natural remedies?
Absolutely. So the first thing that you have to recognize is that the body, your body, is supposed to heal itself. It is built to function. So it's always looking for homeostasis. That's what its whole purpose is to stay the same. And so if you're feeling like garbage, then your body will stay in that space of feeling like garbage. Why? Because it's just that's what it's built to do, to not push itself too far because it doesn't want to produce calories, really. Your brain wants to keep the calories the way it is. And so you have to take these small steps and you have to start asking yourself, is my body strong? Yes, no. Is it healthy? Yes, no. Do I have energy? Yes, no. And if the answer is always coming up no, then you have to challenge that,
Mhm.
right? You have to start saying, am I challenging? Is my body telling me that I'm, you know, don't have energy because it wants to just sit on this couch and eat potatoes? Or potato chips, not
Right.
potatoes. Maybe it
Right.
doesn't want to eat
Well,
potatoes.
hey, it's still
Well,
starch.
Right.
exactly. But you have to then say, hey, what is happening here? I'm going to challenge myself. So maybe you start walking a bit more. Maybe you get off the couch and you have the carrots or something like that. But you start incorporating natural things, natural and if you're new to herbs, you start incorporating fruits and vegetables as a way to get into the herbal place.
Right.
And then maybe you start with tea bags, just a typical tea bag, and then you go to something more exotic, and things that you have never really investigated before. But I always think about like whatever your grandparents or whatever my grandparents or great grandparents would be offering, genetically, like what would they be eating? It's probably not TV dinners. It's
Right.
likely something herbal if
Right.
they were ill. And so
Right.
you go back there and start being really curious. That's where I would start somebody who's really new to the herbal game.
Do
I think you
you?
said something very smart in there, you being curious. I
Mm.
think we've lost the cure. I think we're looking, not we, but people in general who are not on that path yet are looking for that quick fix rather than being curious
Mhm.
and start doing investigation and going down that path, like you said.
Right. Do you find that that the mindset plays a huge role in your health? If you are one who always complaining, oh, I'm sick again, I'm sick again, I feel like crap, my bones hurt, my joints hurt, everything hurts. If you're constantly in that mindset, you continually manifest that illness instead of stopping and saying, wait a minute, something doesn't feel right. I need to figure out what it is and I'm going to fix it. instead of sitting there dwelling, oh my God, I'm going to lose my arm, things like that. The mind plays a huge role, I believe, in whether you stay healthy or you're constantly always sick.
Correct. So I say there's three different knowings. There's the knowing in your gut, there's the knowing in your heart, and there's the knowing in your head. And your head gets a little bit twisted because of um science well, and education, and that person knows more than me, right? So sometimes this knowing can start to get muddled.
Right.
And your gut um, is quiet. So that knowing can also be hard to hear, because when you're in a society where it's like, well, we want to be not complacent, compliant,
Mm.
and good neighbors and all of that, then the gut can start to kind of be quiet in the knowing. And then the heart, what does that mean? When people say, I just know it in my heart, I don't really understand what that means. So what I teach and what I empower people to do is to question what it is that their body is telling them. So what is your body whispering? So for people that truly are unwell, and there is medical gaslighting, right? There is that happens where it's like, no, you're fine, don't worry about it. And you're like, no, I don't feel well.
Right.
So that's a different type of knowing. But the whispers are like, maybe you have a twitch in your eye, or you sneeze regularly, or after you eat meat, you have heartburn, something like that. So those are the whispers. And then the knowing piece comes after that. And that knowing piece is kind of what you're talking about with the mindset. So, you really have to, your brain is really tricky. You really have to say, okay, hold on. Am I just feeling down in the dumps, and I ate a bag of potato chips and that's why I feel like garbage?
Right.
Or is there really something going on that I need to address with my body? And
Right.
if the answer is either of them, then you know what action to take.
Right.
So do you feel people in general, I know people who come to holistic coaches are already looking for that kind of help, kind of guidance, but general population are still kind of caught into this, gotta have a pill for everything. Is there a way, or can we see the future that that's going to drift and people are going to start looking more towards more holistic treatments where they get away from taking a pill for every ill and actually start realizing there's an herb or a plant or some kind of energetic medicine that's going to replace that?
Well, so in Western herbalism, you can easily replace a pharmaceutical or an over the counter with a capsule. And I see that happen quite a bit. So some of my clients are like, I don't want to give that up. I don't want to give up that, like that is, and so I think just sometimes the tools that we use for our mental health, for our physical health, for our emotional health just get replaced. So some people can easily just be like, well, I take 3 herbal teas every night, and instead of the Valium. And so I guess it really depends on, what society wants to do and how much pleasure people get out of, taking care of themselves.
And I think more people are starting to try to look for alternatives to the allopathic way. I really do. I mean, I see it. We see it every day. We got people come to us all the time. Hey, what homeopathic remedy do you have for this, or or an herb or something like that. So we are seeing it very much so in our area, or at least with the people that we work with. And I think it's going to change. I really do. I think the alternative healing is going to be the new way down the road.
Yeah.
Well, I think people are recognizing that allopathic medicine doesn't heal. It just masks symptoms. You know, it's a band-aid over a gaping wound, and
Right.
people are continually sick. And I think there's been in the last several years, they've become more aware that this is not the answer, but they don't know where to go or what to do.
Right.
So what would you recommend, Kristy, being like, where do you start? How do I start getting where I need to go?
Well, well, there are the American Herbalist Association. They have wonderful resources if we're talking about herbs. But right now, information is everywhere. Like, we are in the land of information. And so all you have to do is Google, like, natural remedies. And there are a zillion things that pop up. Now, what I recommend is most people aren't novice. Most people are aware that there's something else out there. And so I recommend finding people that you trust to follow, like maybe you ladies or me on Instagram, and then find your support system and find the people that you align with and that you resonate with,
Mhm.
and then don't give over your power, whether it's a natural remedy or a herb. Nobody should be taking anyone's power, even in the complementary alternative field as well. And so you have the resources. We are just tools, support to help guide um, the people that are called to work with us. And so that's what I would always say is I am never going to say this is what you need to do 100% of the time, because then you're not living in a sovereign way.
Okay, so that's interesting because what we're seeing is the same people looking for, now they're starting to do a little bit more homework on
Mhm.
what remedies they think they need.
Yes.
Um, but you're right. I mean, I've had little aches and pains and cuts and all kinds of other things, and I had this eye issue several weeks back, and it took me a couple days to try to figure out what is this, so that I knew what remedy to use. And once I kind of intuitively,
Yes.
figured out maybe I think what this is, I did the remedy and it fixed it literally within hours.
Yep.
And that's right, so but most people are not there yet. They're
Mhm.
not at that stage yet, so they still need that guidance. But like I said, I am seeing some people that are starting to take it on their own. They're doing a little bit of research. They're coming in and saying, okay, I need this remedy and this remedy, and then they would ask, do
Yes.
you think that is what I should be taking? So yeah, it's getting
Yeah,
there.
I'd like Tammy. I recently had an issue. I get bit by a spider on the inside of my arm. And I'm like, different people are telling me all these things. And I'm like, none of it sounds right to me. I mean, go see a naturopath. And I'm like, what are they going to do? I'm already bit here. And, Tammy gave me some homeopathy suggestions, and that was great. But I'm thinking, I had to sit with it for a minute because it had caused when you have something like that, it
Mhm.
causes kind of a shock to the system.
Mhm.
Like I'm looking at my arm, it's swollen,
Mm.
there's a bloody spot, and I'm like, what am I going to do with this? And I think just sitting with it, which most people won't do, most people freak out,
Right.
look at this, I'm going to die, something, and I don't even know what kind of spider it was. Everybody's telling me,
Right.
it's could be brown recluse and all that. I'm like,
Right.
I
Right.
don't even know what it was
Right.
because it did it and it's gone. But
Right.
now I've got this huge thing on my arm. But once I sat with it, I started to relax and start to think through the process. And honestly, the thing that worked for me was bentonite clay.
Oh, good. Yeah.
And
Yeah.
I'm like,
Yeah.
had I not been frazzled about it for so long, because I'm like, literally, my arm was swollen
Right.
up, and I'm thinking, what have I done to myself here? But that's the thing. People want an immediate response.
Yeah.
Some of the natural remedies give you an immediate response, but when you don't let your mind go where it needs to go, if you're freaking out or you're having, and I kind of had to go there because I'd never been bitten before, and I'm like, what do I do with this? But once you get to the place where you can start relaxing your mind, things come in. And, a search or some kind of, information you found somewhere is always worth a try. None of this stuff really harms you. I did try the apis. That seemed to slow down the inflammation and the swelling.
And the pain,
But
yes.
but then the bentonite clay drew out the toxin. So I'm
Absolutely.
thinking it's just putting your brain into it rather than running away from it and being afraid.
Right. Well, and again, it takes a little bit of knowledge to learn these things. It takes time to be able to learn what does what. I mean, that's something that we're really getting into, is more of the herbal side, medicinal, uses of these herbs. And again, homeopathy is the same thing. It is mostly herbal based, right?
Yep.
Plant based. But I've been doing that for 11 years. So it's like, I just know, like when you said about that, I'm like, oh, apis, take apis. It's like a no brainer. Had a friend call the other night and said, hey, my dog got stung by a bee. Oh, well, no brainer, take apis, but, he did something. Oh, he did arnica first. And I'm like, that's okay. That helps with pain. But, but apis would be more specific to the actual problem. So, but that's it takes time to learn this stuff.
But that's customization. And
Yeah.
that is honoring each and everybody's own moment in time.
Yeah.
So that's the beauty about homeopathics or any herbal remedy or any natural remedy, even if we're just doing energy work.
Sure.
The beauty about it is, once you have the alignment with that person and the customization, the healing can happen right away. And as the practitioner, you know where to guide someone. So there's a difference between somebody who wants to learn it for themselves and I don't want help. I don't need anybody. I'm going to scour everything. That questioner type of personality. There's a difference between that and then having somebody have more flow and ease and want practitioners to help guide them. And I think we can have it all depending on who you are and what you really value.
Right.
I mean,
what I see
clients
here
are
is
very aware of natural remedies, and some aren't. It just depends on where they've focused their attention and time.
Right.
what I see is I'm hoping that people aren't trading one medical model and just substituting another, meaning I go to the doctor, he tells me what's wrong, and he gives me a prescription, and I go take that pill. Where they have similar experience, but now they're going to go to somebody holistic, whatever that is, and say, okay, tell me what's wrong with me and tell me what to take. It's what we're trying to do is invert that system where it's you have to take it on for yourself, where it's more important for you to be the one that diagnoses and you to be the one that learns what it is that's going to help. And I don't know. I know it's going to be an education process. I mean, do you foresee something along those lines coming about, or do you think more people, like us who are out there helping people, if people are just going to gravitate to us and say, I want your guidance?
Well, it's interesting because I feel like I'm always on the forefront of a change. And so I recently shifted from just the clinical herbalist component, because what was happening is a lot of people would come in and they want the body support, but they don't know how to hold the health, right? Because then it's like, okay, you come in, we have the appointment, and then we go. But the coaching is how you then shift that so that people have the empowerment to heal themselves after that our sessions are over. And so I do think it must be changing, because I wouldn't have rebranded and shifted my focus
Right.
more to a coaching space if that wasn't happening, because that's where I saw things were going to. It was, I have a lot of knowledge. I know a lot about herbs and I can support you in that area, but you know your body better than anyone else in the world. And so let's set you up for success uh, as you age, as you shift, as you change careers, as your kids, you know, get out of the house. Let's work on this from a bigger perspective so that we can really shift things from a planetary perspective and not just one ailment at a time.
Right. No, that's fantastic.
Mhm.
That's awesome.
Yeah.
I like to look at it as we evolve in our own lives, and it is learning those tools. You don't need to have every possible thing available. You know, you don't have to go out and buy every remedy available for you, but you have the tools, meaning you have the skill set that you've learned and you know when to apply them. So as life changes, because it invariably will change,
Mhm.
you're able to apply that skill set and say, oh, well, now I'm on to something else, and now I need to evolve into that way of healing, because is not static. It's never going to stand still. Something is going to change, and
Right.
so we have to be able to change with it.
Always.
Oh yeah. Be flexible.
That's
Yeah.
and the other piece to that is, how are you partnering with your body? So eventually, I mean, we're animals, like our bodies, there's a suite of things that can happen, but generally speaking there's a pattern that your body will usually take. And so eventually your tool chest is, hey, I might have 300 different herbs, but four of them I go back to on the regular.
Mhm.
And so once you learn those, often we just forget. Both of you mentioned moments where you're just like, oh, my eye, oh, there's a this, and all of a sudden you're like, what happened to me? I lost my head. It's a spike. It's just a spike in chemicals. You lose your head. You bring yourself back to center. You call your support team, whoever that may be, and then you go and you and move forward.
Right.
Yeah, we have a comment from our audience, someone you know,
Although it still says
saying,
Southern Soul Farm.
"Yeah, I wonder who that is." Says, my backyard is a medicine cabin. There are a lot of beneficial weeds growing there. I think that's something people are starting to learn. I think more and more it's coming out. Stop spraying your lawn so it looks
Yes.
like a golf course.
Mm.
Instead, go out and pick out the weeds that are going to help you, medicinally.
Yep.
We recently found out plantain is
Mhm.
growing, oops, all over the place. And boy, the medicinal benefits of plantain is amazing, right? So,
Yes.
and everybody's spraying them. It's a weed. It's a weed. Well, we actually pulled a whole bunch of plantain and put it in um, into a box. Well, not into a box, but we put it into a box to collect it, and then we're going to go dry it,
Yeah.
so that we actually have some dried plantain.
Well, and you're not making salves yet, you said,
Mm-mm.
but
No.
a plantain salve is fantastic for your
Okay.
skin. And also, like, I, if you're, hiking or out and you get stung by a bee, you can break a plantain leaf off
Mhm.
along with some chickweed. Use some water or some saliva and turn it into a paste.
Yeah.
So
Or chew
plantain,
it.
yeah,
Chew it.
that's what, yeah.
That was the one thing that we found out, that you want to chew it, get the saliva in there and then put it on whatever you need.
Mhm.
So, yeah.
Yeah, I like, it's funny that you mentioned plantain. That was the thing that came to my head before you said it. So, yeah, I'm sure and the thing about weeds is, who decides? Comes back to sovereignty too. Who decides what's a weed and what isn't? I
Right.
mean, obviously there's some invasive plants that are not ideal, but just common weeds
Yeah.
are wonderful. They have wonderful medicinal properties.
Right.
Hmm.
Yeah. Do you
And,
have
I've always said, the way that the earth was made, I believe God gave us everything here. We just have to learn how to use it.
yeah.
Yes, and we also have to not that I was going to say not have to not, but not jump on trends. So what I find that happens is like we find out that there's this amazing plant in South America that can do all these things and grow hair and all this stuff, and then all of a sudden everybody depletes that resource,
Mm,
when wherever you live, that is the medicine that is often best for you. So a herbal bitter out of the Carolinas would probably do way better for somebody from the eastern US than a bitter that I might create or have in the mountains of the Rockies.
right.
So we have to really stay on trend in ourselves.
Yeah.
I think there is a reason why, and I don't want to get too philosophical about it, but the reason why we're in the place we are in, or why we grew up where we are, and learning those things earlier on in life, I think would benefit as you got older. I mean, just having parents teach children, weeds are not bad things, and there's so much in the yard that you can make teas out of it, the dandelion tea, things like that. It would change, I think, dramatically the health of the world if we started looking at what is in our local environment
Mhm.
and how we should interact with it.
Yeah, we need to go back to that. I think we've lost generations of this. You look back on, our great grandmothers, they would do the dandelion wine and the dandelion tea and dandelion tinctures. And it's interesting that it's taken us this lifetime to go back to that and learn how to make tinctures again and learn how to, I'm finding huge benefits with cayenne,
Oh, yeah.
and you know, and it's like, wow, nobody taught us that. Nobody, I don't remember anything, even my grandmother, I don't think got into any of that stuff. So there's generations that have lost that need to get that back. And I
But
think this
what
is the time.
they would have done something differently. It would have been part of their diet. So
Mm,
they might not have used the alcohol to
mhm,
extract the liquid,
right.
but they might have had dandelion salad in the spring.
Sure.
Or, they would have pickled, I don't know, whatever they
Mhm.
would have pickled
Right.
depending on your heritage,
Right. Right.
So it's the knowledge isn't lost. It's just, well, the knowledge is there if
Mhm.
we want to go and
Correct.
cover it. It's
Yes.
just that we would just be looking at their diets instead of manufacturing tinctures.
Right. Well, and look at back then. Their diets were a lot better. They were a lot healthier. They were a lot
Well,
thinner.
you had to make your food. Like,
Yeah.
everything took a while,
Yeah.
Now, one thing that's challenging is convenience and the pressures around convenience. We have more time than we've ever had. And so, how do we spend our time? I'm not a very good cook. And so, for me, the idea of cooking something really extravagant is challenging, but I will take an hour and chop a salad. So, like, it really just depends on where I prioritize my time and what
Right.
I value.
I
Right.
think you said it there. I think it comes down to those two things you just talked about, convenience and priorities. People want convenience because it's been thrust upon them, quick food, quick answers to everything. The doctor, 15 minutes, you got an answer in a pill.
Yeah.
All those things have been for convenience. And I think we need to rethink convenience. And that's something I say over and over again to all my clients. Convenience isn't what you think it is. It's not just being fast and moving on. It's about being right for you.
Mm.
It's convenient because it fits your lifestyle. Having families now that are into, four or five different things, and parents are running all around. I think that kind of thing has got to go away, because we need to focus on being a family. We need to focus on loving each other. And we do that being together, not being separate and going every direction that you possibly can. And I think when you come together, then you also have that shared knowledge. And I think that's what's missing. We used to have the oral histories from the older generation passed down to the next generation and on. And because we've become so fragmented, we stick our older people into homes, and we go off in this kind of, family unit, and then the kids go off and everything's fractured, where instead of doing that, we need to come back and prioritize being a family, being a community, and sharing that knowledge. I think oral histories are something that really should come back.
Mm. Yeah, I love storytelling. I think it's a part of herbalism, to be honest with you. Is this whole oral concept and history of how you make medicine, how you heal, where the herbs come from. I agree. I don't think there's any harm in that. Convenience is one of those things. Well, what I tell my clients is we don't chase comfort, and comfort and convenience can go hand in hand. So there will be discomfort, and it's a matter, but it's not pain, and you got to know what the difference is.
Right.
Right. So originally, I was going to ask you to name the top 5 herbs that everybody should have in their home, but since it is more, it's going to be a difficult question to answer now, because it really is individual.
It is, but I can name some herbs that I love.
Yeah, and there've been medicinal benefits.
Exactly, I could do that for
Yeah.
sure. But it is individual, and I love that you prefaced it like that, because I can list them out, but if this does not make sense to you, you do not run out and get this herb. Like it's like telling someone, you know what? Peanuts are the best possible thing anybody can eat, and then all of a sudden everybody who had a peanut allergy is in the hospitals because
Right.
they found out that, well, I can kind of override the peanut allergy with my mind. So some of these herbs are pretty benign, but in case they're not for you, don't just keep rolling. Always something from the mint family is something that I would have all the time. Spearmint, peppermint, even some catnip, because it's in the mint family, would be really helpful to have on hand. I like mint because you can actually ingest it.
Mhm.
You can use it as a poultice, or anything along those lines. And then it also helps with cramps. Like
Mm.
if you have menstrual cramps, you can put that on top of your belly as well. So anything in the mint family is something that I would suggest. If you're taking it and ingesting it, though, you need to make sure that your body temperature is right. And that really is dependent on how fast your digestive system is. And so some people would not want mint because it might give them heartburn. So in that regard, I would shift it over to ginger. And the way I look at herbs as anything that could also be a vegetable sometimes. So ginger is something that I would also have on hand. I'd have it fresh. I'd have it ground as well. Not if you run hot. So those of us that have hot bodies, I would not recommend ginger.
So that's interesting. So ginger is hot energetically. That's an
Yes.
it's a hot. Okay.
And
All right.
medicinally and energetically. Yeah.
Yeah.
Another way you can tell if you have a hot body is if you open your tongue, if you stick out your tongue and you look at the center of your tongue and it's yellowish, your digestive system is hot. And so you would move that over to like a peppermint to help
That's
calm down
interesting.
digestion.
Okay.
Yeah.
So a yellow center
Yeah.
on tongue is equals hot.
Yeah. Yellow and like, pardon
I'm
me?
sorry. It's so funny because I had eaten something that upset my stomach, something I hadn't eaten before, and I'm like, okay, this is not for me. But I don't like mints. Like I don't like drinking peppermint tea. So I had ginger tea, settled my stomach, felt great, and I know my body is not hot. Typically I'm the one that's always colder than everybody else, and it's like I'm sitting in here with a sweater on because the air conditioning is on. I don't like air conditioning. So it's amazing you answered two questions in once. That's great.
Well, I mean, these are so common, but this is why you want somebody who's going to coach you, right? Because if you go to a different type of practitioner, they're going to be like, here's some mint, have a good night, and see you later. Well, what I would suggest is you ask them, why are you saying mint? You know, some practitioners would be like, that's just because it's easy. You know, other practitioners might actually tell you this piece. So this is how you become more and more knowledgeable and more sovereign. And the fact that you're listening to your body and you're saying, I just don't like it. But you were going to take the mint because in your head, you knew that that was going to help you. So, yeah, so those are two. Should I keep going?
Yes.
Yes, please. It's interesting.
You mentioned cayenne. I would always have a circulatory herb around. So cayenne pepper is a great one. Regular pepper, paprika, all of those help with circulatory systems. So I like cayenne in particular, and you can take that as a capsule too, but I like it in particular because I call it the chaser. So anything that you want to get into your system faster, you chase it with cayenne.
Yeah.
So I enjoy doing that. So if let's say you have a cut and you're going to use yarrow or something, a little bit of cayenne will also help stop that bleeding faster with
That's
the
right.
yarrow.
Yep. Absolutely. Yes.
So I am partial to rosemary. Rosemary is one of those herbs that I would make sure everyone had in their house. That being said, I like it because I like it for how it stimulates our brain and the synapses in our brain. It helps with digestion and the digestion of meat in particular, like horseradish and rosemary on what is that cut of meat, like prime rib, I guess. If you think back to like what people would eat with different foods, you know, prime rib is usually bloody, and so like what do you need with that? You need something that's going to help you digest that, which would be like rosemary. But I like rosemary for just the way that it helps stimulate your brain. And so that's where I would go with that. And clarity.
Nice.
Yeah, I like rosemary for an oil for my hair. I love the way it feels on your scalp too.
I need to find more uses for our rosemary. Our rosemary bush has just like grown so much and it's beautiful. I love going out and just, playing with it, saying thank you for being so beautiful. And then I smell my fingers because, because I'm touching the leaves. But I do fire cider every year.
Oh yes.
I make lots of fire cider, and rosemary is the one thing that goes into every single batch.
And I would use rosemary, like in my products, I have rosemary a lot for bath products. So I would, if I were you, I would just clip those, tie them into bundles and throw them in the bath with you. I would, like Angela said, put it in my hair. It helps with hair growth, and the oil is phenomenal.
Yeah. Fantastic.
Yeah, so let's think. So digestive, circulatory. Let's do lungs.
Mhm.
So I would do. I would always have fennel
Mhm.
around.
Yep.
Um, fennel will help suppress a cough, whereas peppermint would expedite and express a cough. So I would always have fennel around. Fennel essential oil is how I would do it for the cough.
Okay. Okay.
Um, Otherwise, you're using fennel as a digestive aid, which is okay too. But I always think of fennel in a different kind of way.
Okay.
Um, I'm trying to. I think about the cupboards, the cabinets in my pantry.
Right.
I also there's some herbs that are a little bit unique that I would probably have around if I was dealing with anxiety.
Mhm.
And I'm going to shift it more towards the medicinal mushroom category.
Mhm.
And I would have reishi
Mhm.
uh, as something that I would always have present. Uh, in the mushroom form, the dried
Okay.
mushroom form, and then I would drink that as a tea. Now, I know people like the tinctures of that because they are fast and the tea tastes really earthy, but I would have that around to kind of beat anxiety. But that anxious aspect, I always go with music and essential oils.
Okay. So, what about in powdered form? The medicinal mushrooms in powdered form.
How would you
The
with
only
it, like with hot, like cacao, or how would you take it?
Well, so what I've been doing because we literally have had this heat wave,
Mhm,
excuse me, for an entire week.
mhm,
I was making smoothies
mhm.
in the morning, and then I was putting the reishi powder in my smoothie when I mix
Yes.
it up. Or I did lion's mane the other day.
Oh,
So I don't know if it's given me any benefit or not, but I was putting it in there.
well, it will, but it takes a while. So
Okay.
in the powder form, as long as you have a way of getting it in, like that's what I find people get the powder and then they don't know what to do to like actually get it in their system.
Oh
So
yeah, like me. I put it in my smoothie and assumed it was going to work.
yeah, that's fine. Or in yogurt or something like
Right.
that. Or, I would so lion's mane is for memory and short-term memory in particular, and so you have to take that quite a bit.
Okay.
Reishi is also one of those things that you have to take over the course
Okay.
of a long period of time,
Okay.
and so I would, yeah, I think in the powder form that works too.
Okay.
It's just you just got to find a good way to get it into your
Right.
system.
Right.
So would
Mhm.
you have an alternative to mushrooms for somebody who's allergic to them?
For anxiety, I
Yeah.
would, yeah, I would. So there's, have you heard of ashwagandha?
Yeah.
It's very popular. Um, and it's from India, which is great, but you have to make sure that you have a proper source so there's no contamination and heavy metals and all of that. But the trick to ashwagandha, which is an alternative, is you have to take that every single day and you have to
Mm.
take it in a large amount. So anytime we're talking about like ashwagandha or parsley or anything along those lines where it's a herb and a fresh herb, it leaves your system rather quickly.
Mm.
So the clients that I have on ashwagandha are on it every day, like a tablespoon in the
Mm.
morning in their smoothies, and they are religious about it. So quick fixes for anxiety really come from whatever's going to help your limbic brain, and that would be like music and scent. And so I would always do things with scent, like frankincense is really good.
Yeah.
Um, but ashwagandha is a great herb for generalized anxiety. Milky oats, holy basil. Holy basil is really nice too. That would be more in the that would be a good one. Tulsi is the other name for
Hmm.
basil.
Hmm.
Yeah.
Yeah. Yeah.
And these
Tammy and
others
I and you,
go
we kind of
forever,
crossed
right?
all the modalities. Tammy's with her homeopathics, you with your herbalism, me with the essential oils, because I'm hearing things. I'm thinking, oh, I have an oil for that. I have an oil for
Yes.
Yeah.
that.
Yeah.
So I mean, I just wanted to know. I am allergic to mushrooms. That's why I was interested in finding out because I like finding alternatives to everything, but thank you for that.
Yeah, well, passion flower would be good for you. Or
I don't have
possibly,
anxiety. I just wanted to know what if there was
but
an alternative.
fair enough. But yeah, anybody who's allergic to that. Let me just list them just so that I can get it out of my head. Passion flower, holy basil, milky oats. Those are the three.
Great.
Yeah.
Do you have one more top? We're rounding out the hour here. Do you have one more top herb you want to share with us?
I think that what I'd love to share is whatever you're drawn to is what you need to have in your house. So if you're like thinking about lavender, or if you are drawn to honey, like that's there's gonna be a reason that you're gonna use it, you know? It's
No.
all without fail. That's always what happens. And then you're like, oh yeah, I just bought that. And then you bring it in. So
Except in my case, I have been trying to grow lavender for years, and every time the lavender dies. And I love the smell of lavender. I love it, but I can't seem to get it to stay growing. I don't know what the problem is.
is it French or English?
I've had both.
Yeah, maybe it's just your soil.
Yeah, yeah.
You know,
Everything
it
else
might
is
just
growing
be.
pretty good.
I find it finicky. I put it in a pot every year. I bring it into the house. It dies by February. But then I just
Yeah,
have dead plants all around.
yeah. I don't know. Lavender. I love lavender, but it's just I can never get it to grow or stay
Interesting.
growing. Yeah,
Interesting.
yeah.
Well, this has been a great discussion. I thank you so much, Kristy. Any final words that you want to invite people to your space?
Well, absolutely. You know, I work with people so that they can partner with their body by using and incorporating luxury in their life. And so that to me is the pinnacle of holistic living, is when we can say to ourselves, I honor myself and I appreciate my mind and my emotions and my body, and I am going to incorporate luxury so that I can go further in my life, expand, and really reach the goals that I have. And so if that's something that you want to do and you find appealing, please reach out to me and we'll figure out a way to work together. And so that's what I would leave everybody with. It's a birthright to incorporate luxury into your life. It's not for the elite, it's for all of us.
Right. Beautiful.
Beautifully said. Thank you, Kristy, so much.
Thank you so much.
Tammy and I, we're going to say this has been a great another podcast. We're really looking forward to more discussions like this. We welcome you back anytime, Kristy. But
Yes.
for now, we'll just say good night and hope to see you next week.
Good night, everyone.